years ago, when my husband came out with his last major relapse, I had no idea that I knew I needed to feel safe, but I did not know how I would feel safe in the future, because he was able to lie to me so convincingly that looking back, I thought I can never trust him. And so when our therapist initially said, "Can you stay with him if he's in recovery?" my biggest question was, how will I know if he's in recovery? Because he lies so convincingly. And what I learned was that I needed to be able to set boundaries to keep myself safe. And for instance, my boundary had to be that I would not accept any dishonesty in our relationship. But of course, how would I know if he was being dishonest? And so I became educated on what the addiction is and what it does to people, and the tendency to lie and to hide, and why that is, that it comes from shame, and not wanting to be honest for fear that people will not love you. So I needed to learn that I could be safe by trusting my boundaries and trusting my instincts. I say it by trusting my gut, and that I needed to be able to trust that. And boundaries are a big and important part of that, because I need to feel safe that I'm not being trampled on emotionally or emotionally abused in any way. And so learning to set my boundaries by saying, this particular behavior does not work for me. I cannot have this in my marriage, in my life, because I don't feel safe with it, was really a critical part. And so early on, my husband and I set a boundary together, that if he had a lust trigger, that he needed to tell me within 24 hours. Because even though that was just a lust trigger, it wasn't necessarily a relapse. Just the fact that he could hide something, and that became a bigger problem for him and precipitated actually more acting out behavior, the hiding. The hiding and the lying are some of the main components of the addiction. And so early on we made that together, and we had a couple of experiences within a couple of years of our recovery, where I needed to hold that boundary. And even though I wanted to back off of it and say, "Oh no, now you've gotten honest," but it was 3 days ago or 2 days ago, I had to hold that boundary, and it had to also have a consequence. Because there is a big difference in clarifying my wishes of what I need and actually setting a boundary. Clarifying my wishes sounds like, "I don't want you to do that anymore," or "This is what I need you to do. I need you to be honest." That's clarifying my wishes. But setting a boundary is a plan of action. So setting a boundary for me was the way I could feel safe, because I had clarified my wishes for 32 years. I would always say, I need an honest husband for Christmas, or for whatever day it was. But that clarifying my wishes didn't mean anything to an addict. That was, he was hopeful that he could do that, but it didn't mean that I had safety in my plan of action. So instead of just saying, "I need this to happen," I then said, "If you have a lust trigger and you do not tell me within 24 hours, we will sleep in separate bedrooms, because I will not feel safe with that lack of honesty." So it's an if-then statement. If this happens, then this will happen. But even when it did happen in our relationship, I had the tendency to want to ignore it or minimize it and say, oh, now he's gotten honest. And I don't want to have to make him. But a boundary is not about punishment. It's about everyone being safe and having the opportunity and ability to be connected in an honest, clear way in a relationship. So although for a moment it felt like a punishment that he had to go sleep in the other bedroom, he actually remembered that we had set the boundary, and he said it himself. I didn't say anything within 24 hours. That was 48 hours ago, and I will need to sleep in the other bedroom tonight. Then my response of, oh no, I will miss you kind of thing came up, and I remembered to hold my boundary. Because if I had not held my boundary and let the consequence work as we had planned earlier, I would not have felt safe thereafter. That was critical for my safety. And his safety as well. Because boundaries are all about doing the most loving thing. The most loving thing is encouraging recovery and healthy living, not enabling behavior that is destructive. And destructive not only to the individual, but to the relationship. So I really believe that boundaries are the most loving thing that anyone can do for someone they love.